What do you think is going to be the future of coffee in the region if we go outside of, let's say, the Levant?
I think coffee will continue growing. I mean, the market is growing, and it will continue growing despite of all the challenges we mentioned. It's still part of people's lives and growing, and new shifts happening. So altogether, I think it is going to keep growing, especially with countries in GCC like the KSA and UAE. They're leading this transformation.
Have you been thinking about starting a coffee side hustle? Our brand new Start a Coffee Side Hustle Mastermind group is launching this July, a 3-month online program designed for new or upcoming coffee business owners anywhere in the world. You'll define your business fundamentals, shape your business blueprint, and learn how to navigate the coffee industry in 2025 small scale, including how to use tools like ChatGPT for smarter planning. It's a grounded, guided way to get started with the support of people who have done it many, many times before. Registrations start at $189 a month for 3 months. Apply now at mapperforward.coffee/group coaching. Check the show notes for details. Welcome to the Mapper Forward Middle East podcast. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is unfortunately the final episode of what has been a truly wonderful first series on the new Mapper Forward Middle East podcast. Shireen and James from Bunni Coffee, thank you guys for doing this series. I had high hopes for this series. This is even better than what I thought it would be. So I really appreciate you guys being here. We're talking about building a business today where coffee was born. And what people may not realize is that coffee is deeply ingrained in the daily life of Arabs in the entire Middle East region, in the entire MENA region, actually. It is something that sets the rhythm for our day. It is a part that sets the rhythm in different parts of the region. There is different etiquettes that are involved, and the role that coffee plays in that. For example, in Syria, we use coffee as a way to signal to our guests that it's time to leave. And in Lebanon, they serve coffee first as a part of the way that the etiquette works. So if we have someone over for dinner or just a visit, when the coffee shows up, that's when you should start thinking about gathering your kids, and it's a polite way to ask you to leave. So it's a really deeply ingrained part of the culture, and it's roasted differently all over the region and drunk differently all over the region. And it's a beautiful tapestry that underpins a lot of society across the Middle East. And with this now new tapestry that's being overlaid in that, which is specialty coffee and different ways of brewing in a more modern way, I think is only making the coffee industry in this region more rich and more exciting, and is going to continue to grow. So in this episode of this series, we're talking about what does the future of coffee in the Middle East look like. And that's why I kind of brought into the discussion this idea of the deep, deep, deep history of what we've had here in the Middle East with coffee. When it comes to what you guys are pioneering in, again, my words, not yours, but pioneering in Jordan, let's start with Jordan, and then we can kind of look at it from the greater regional perspective. Where do you see coffee on all different levels going in Jordan?
For me, it's all about awareness. I mean, me personally, right? When I was growing up, I was drinking commercial coffee, putting some sugar in it to get rid of the bitterness. And, this is how we all were at one point. Once you become aware, it changes things. In Jordan, over the last 6 years, there has been an increase in awareness. People are becoming more aware of what they're drinking. Once they tend to recognize it and they try something nicer, it's hard to go back. Now, how I see it going in Jordan, at least, is it depends on how aware people come. within this whole journey. If, for example, I mean, let's take the mass market, right? Forget special coffee now. The level of coffee there, it's not the best. I mean, rarely will you have traditional coffee where it tastes balanced and enjoyable, and you don't have to have the water afterwards, right? Now, if a nice, balanced, interesting coffee were available, people would start, I think, gradually to recognize that, okay, this is slightly over extracted, this is slightly over roasted. These would be like the generic principles of coffee would start to kind of be rolled out gently in the kind of traditional culture. We have actually done some testing in our research, and we have actually found that people who do try something more balanced as a traditional coffee, then they go back to their ordinary choice, do not enjoy it as much, and they start to recognize the fault in it. So I think that for Jordan, at least, let's say the Levant, I think we extend that to the whole Levant, is that is where coffee will go. Those who are open to trying something new, or trying a product that is slightly more balanced, interesting, tasteful, will then start to appreciate higher quality coffee without necessarily recognizing it. Those who want to stay their own brand and not move will remain as such. So I think that there will be, as has happened worldwide in coffee in general, and how special coffee is growing wherever you go, I think that will start to appear locally, but in a different form, in a much more different form of coming from something that's, say, low quality, and then gradually being introduced to something of higher quality without necessarily realizing it.
Shireen, what do you think?
Just adding to James' point, we had some real experiments. Some of my family,
as opposed to fake ones.
Yeah, we tried traditional coffee with them, and the first time they said it's nice, it's lovely, but the grain size is different, for example. And they said, okay, why it's important to you? So, does it have anything to do with the taste? Does it annoy? No, just it's not what I'm used to, you know. Yeah, just what they used to. Just these like the rooted belief, the rooted understanding
tradition
of what they have every day. Yeah, traditions. But with time, the same person cannot go back to the coffee they used to have it, because now they understand the difference. They don't have this annoying aftertaste. You know? Yeah.
For example.
Yeah, it's
and even when you do tasting events. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Even with your tasting.
Even when you do tasting events with a random groups of people, right? I mean, the whole point of us doing tasting events, we do workshops regularly. It's to raise awareness of people who have, let's say, no background coffee. So we put a commercial coffee on the table, and we put a special coffee on the table, and we taste them both. The majority, they say, this is coffee, this is weird. So they're so used to the commercial coffee. It tastes grassy, it tastes astringent, it tastes incredibly boring, horrible. But then they're used to that meaning, this is coffee. So it's in many ways it's redefining to them what coffee really means, right?
They don't say it's bad, just different, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. Hey.
And then they get used to the different one, and they come back to the previous one and say, "Oh yeah, that is annoying." Because then they start to realize that there is something there that doesn't necessarily have to be annoying or astringent or whatever.
And how are you serving it to them when you do that? Are they cupping it? Are they through cupping?
It's blind without any name.
Yeah,
wow, it's so interesting, right? Like how people who may have grown up drinking coffee in a very traditional kind of way, ahwi murra, ahwi helwi, like all of those kinds of very ways that we drink coffee at home when we're growing up in Arab households, versus now going into a roastery, cupping coffee and trying to get into a different way and tradition of drinking coffee. Are you finding that you guys are helping that process along in Jordan, in the kind of the tasting events that you're doing with consumers?
Yeah, I think so, but it remains very small scale, right? We're not about the mass market. We're talking about a very small scale thing.
Right.
But those who do tastings and those who try coffees, they do come with this feedback, and they do come with this recognition that now they're aware of better quality, they're aware of what they're drinking more. So we are doing it, but I think it's very small scale.
Over time, we noticed that it became kind of organic marketing channel for us without trying to market. They come and enjoy the experience, enjoy the coffee. It's word of mouth.
Yeah. Well, again, people want to do business with good people who know what they're doing and they know what they're talking about, because it creates a sense of safety in the way that you're doing business. Where do you think that... Go ahead, Shireen, please.
So I just want to add something, because recently we started to get questions. I don't know if I discussed this with you or not yet, but we started to receive questions from multiple people wanting to open a coffee business, a coffee shop. But before they do the training about coffee with us, they want us to train them about the concept, about what require them to open a coffee shop. Cost in place, what they need to have, all these preparation. So even before the coffee, how can I open the business?
Wow, teach me how to start a business and then teach me about coffee. Which is very unusual, I have to tell you that. You're hearing it first here on Map of Forward Middle East, James. But that's very unusual. I don't know if you guys know that. That's a very interesting indicator, because that's not how it goes in. It's why we're in a coffee crisis, is because most of the time people are like, I know the coffee side of things. I'll learn the business stuff as I go. You guys did that. I did that. Like when I was opening businesses in coffee, it's the way people do business in coffee. For you guys to be being approached by people saying, teach me about business and then teach me about the coffee, that's really exciting. And it can only be positive for
I think for me it is. Yeah, I think there's many good things. I think it goes back to who we are as a business again, being trustworthy and transparent, and basically supporting them. And then also, I mean, we also made mistakes when we first opened, right? So we can also give them just lessons learned from our side, so they can shortcut that whole journey. Right?
Which benefits everybody. It benefits the whole local supply chain when you have a strong, it's everything that we stand for at Mapper Forward, responsible businesses with responsible pricing models. And when you can build an entire local industry that does that, that's where I want to say to people, go there. Because everybody understands the supply chain, they understand cost structures, they understand strategic planning, they understand all of the things that are necessary. That's the benchmark. When that's the benchmark for a local economy, when predatory pricing enters the market, there's no oxygen for it to survive, which is an exciting prospect, but it takes an entire industry to move in that direction for it to work. So that's really exciting. What do you think is going to be the future of coffee in the region if we go outside of, let's say, the Levant?
I think coffee will continue growing. I mean, the market is growing, and it will continue growing despite of all the challenges we mentioned. It's still part of people's lives, and growing, and new shifts happening. So altogether, I think it is going to keep growing, especially with countries in GCC like the KSA and UAE. They're leading this transformation. No,
Qatar as well.
It started. It's not as, I think it's not the same level as KSA. In KSA, I've read that they have over 5,000 coffee shops.
That's wild,
UAE
right?
UAE is the hub of all these local international innovations and technologies. And let's not forget Jordan. Jordan is also moving from the Levant. I would say, we agree that Jordan is, in this region, is leading.
100%.
Yeah. And they're contributing toward changing this coffee culture and, these trends happening. So, I think despite of all changes, of all challenges, it will continue growing. in my opinion.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I think that the purchasing power is completely different, right? So, I mean, it's when prices are passed on to the end user, I don't think it will be as significant as it is in our region. An increase of price of $3 per kilogram from our side is a massive thing. I think in the Gulf, I think it wouldn't even be looked at, to be honest, by many at least. So I think that will. I don't think it will really be that affected in the GCC as it would be elsewhere, because they can cater for it. So.
But you live in the GCC, you said.
To us, yeah.
Well, I think the interesting thing that I can tell you that I can see is happening right now is that the price sensitivity is really becoming a problem for business owners. The business owners are much more price sensitive than what they're letting on. And this is where it's really, really interesting. You've got these brands that are building these gorgeous cafes, these beautiful roasteries, amazing packaging. And what they're doing is they're investing all of that in these external things because coffee was cheap. They looked at, there's definite correlations of what happened when money was cheap and the impact of money being cheap and now not being cheap and the impact that that's having on people who borrowed a lot of money. If you correlate that with what's happening in coffee, there's a very interesting correlation. People who established businesses when coffee was cheap invested all of this money in their fit outs and invested in their packaging and all of that other stuff because they were counting on the fact that coffee would remain cheap. And now coffee has not remained cheap. They are starting to have to make some very, very serious decisions about, do they continue to buy specialty coffee? Who are their suppliers? Can we actually afford to subsidize the prices that we had been subsidizing before? Because before we could get access to lots of coffee that was cheap. Now we can't. The supply is a problem and the amount that we need to invest is a bigger problem. And there's a lot less importers that are willing to take risk on roasteries because they're not sure that roasteries can pay their bills. And because of that, their risk tolerance has been reduced. And because of that, they're requiring roasters to pay for the coffee up front. And this is where we're starting to see the increase in price become a problem, because if you're increasing my price $3 a kilo and I have to now front you that money up front and you're not going to deliver the coffee, now we're starting to see the real problem of that, right? And so there's a lot of assumptions that people make about doing business here in the GCC because everybody's got so much money. But when you start to look at who are the ones that actually have the money and how much money do they actually have access to, we've been operating here in specialty coffee long enough that people are starting to notice that there might not be as much money in coffee as what they had first thought. And it's getting very expensive to operate in coffee compared to what it used to be just 12 months ago. So the certainty, I'm looking at this region and thinking, I have no idea how this is going to play out, but it is going to be very interesting. Anyone who tells you that they know everything is going to be fine here perhaps may not have a full understanding of the way that capital flows and the way that, business risk has to be assessed, and cash flow statements and P&Ls and things like that. And unfortunately, we're in an industry where people learn that stuff secondary as opposed to understanding what a balance sheet is and a P&L is and a cash flow statement is before they open their business. So we are seeing a lot of businesses in Saudi close. We talk a lot about this in mastermind groups that we run, this idea of an innovation S-curve, where if a new product or a new industry is formulating itself, that first part of an innovation S-curve, the flatter it is and the longer it goes for, the more likely the industry is to take off if it does find that uptick. Because it means that the people establishing the industry have spent time and effort building a workforce and building the education within that workforce and building supply chains and relationships with government that can create policy that support the growth of new entrepreneurs, etc., etc., etc. What we saw in Saudi was this kind of, instead of a flat part of the innovation S-curve, we saw this very steep innovation first tail end of their S-curve. So there was a lot of investment and a lot of businesses were opening up, and it was really beautiful to see that there was a lot of opportunity there. But because a lot of that opportunity wasn't founded in necessarily a lot of founders who had experience running businesses or experience in coffee supply chain and stuff like that, you found that their runway ended up being cut off very quickly. And now we have this boom bust cycle that is happening. And we're in the part of that cycle that is the bust cycle. So what I expect that you'll see from that is that there will be businesses that do survive that. They have a lot of money in their pockets and they will survive that. But as the coffee crisis continues to evolve over the next few years, the probability and the resources that are going to be required to keep those businesses alive longer is going to vary a lot in different parts of this region. And I think people are going to be surprised by where the industry suffers more than in different parts of this region. And I suspect, particularly after this conversation, I suspect that people are underestimating Jordan. And I think that people should look to Jordan and people like places that are building, as I said, that innovation S-curve, where there's an investment into building businesses that are cognitive, like really think about how to do business before they're thinking about how do I do coffee, and then they marry those two things together. That's where I think we're going to see stability as this industry continues to boom. And it is booming here. So I hope people didn't switch off and go, I have no idea what she's talking about. Anyway, for those who are still listening, I just want to thank you for being here for the first series and for always supporting Map It Forward, even before we did decide to have specific content just for the Middle East audience. To Shireen and to James, thank you so much for being my first guests. I really appreciate it. Could you tell people where they can find out more about Bunni and connect with you guys?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us in this first podcast for the Map It Forward. And it was very nice and refreshing to have this conversation because
thank you.
It doesn't happen quite often, to talk about what's happening. And so thank you very much for having us. So they can find us. So that we have a website, www.bunni.coffee. We have also our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at bunni.coffee. And we're always there. We're happy to receive your question, your comments, and answer them.
Amazing. And we will have links in the show notes for everyone to be able to connect. And if you're in Jordan, go and visit these folks. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Inshallah soon. Would you guys do us the honor of signing off our very first series for us?
Of course. Peace, love, and peanut butter.
Have an amazing rest of your day, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This episode is part of a 5-part series produced by Map It Forward. Check the full playlist and guest details in the show notes, as well as how you can support our work in the coffee industry. Become a premium YouTube subscriber, explore our Patreon and any brands we've partnered with to bring you this podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us grow our audience.